Welcome back, incubators. Today, I'm talking with someone who is not only a brilliant clinician, but also a brand spanking new dear friend. Dr. Aumatma Shah-Simmons is a double board certified naturopathic endocrinologist who's revolutionizing fertility care by doing something radical, treating people like whole human beings. After watching countless couples endure invasive procedures and exhausting treatments with little hope, she pioneered a functional root cause approach that supports natural conception without drugs, the trauma, or the financial wreckage. She's helped hundreds of couples, once labeled medically hopeless, become parents. But why I couldn't wait to have her here is that she spent a year in silence. So I can only imagine how much she listens to her intuition, along with how much she labs. And she's on a mission to expand her fertile systems approach beyond the body into how we live, lead, and create without burnout. She's also trained hundreds of physicians, authored a best-selling book, founded Madre Fertility, the world's first smart fertility analysis, and hosts an award-winning podcast. This conversation is about so much more than fertility. It's about creativity, intuition, energy, and what it really means to be fertile in every part of life. Welcome to the show, Mama.
Thanks for having me, Abby. It's good to be here.
Yeah. So listen, I want to hear all about this year of silence. I wonder if you can start by telling our listeners about your journey, because I know you grew up in an Indian family and there were certain expectations, and I'd love to hear that journey and how you wound up where you wound up.
Yeah, when I reflect on my life, I feel like there's been so many different threads that feel disjointed until we're in retrospect, right? We look backwards and we're like, oh, wow. I grew up, of course, with Indian parents who were like, you're going to be a doctor. And that was literally my only choice. There wasn't like a doctor, lawyer, or engineer. It was like, you are meant to be a doctor. So it was like predetermined in a lot of ways. And I didn't feel like I had choice around it. But I knew very quickly after getting into college that it didn't make sense. And I can't explain it beyond like, I felt super connected to this part of ourselves called the soul, or our inner essence. And I connected with that super early on. So by the time I got to college and like pre-med major and all of that, and I just was like, well, I don't understand how the body can be separate from the mind and the soul. And I kept telling my professors that, and they were like, you're just a hippie. Like, maybe you should move to California. And I was like, well, maybe I will. Like, kind of, what do you mean? You can't help me with this? So I ended up essentially like triple major in biology, psychology, and spirituality. And I didn't like do all the formal things, but essentially I was on track to have 3 degrees instead of 1 because I just could not understand how these could be separated. So that was like me starting out. And by the end of that 4-year pre-med track, I was a month from graduation and feeling extremely lost, right? I was like, I am not going to medical school. I'm not doing MCATs. This is not my life. And in the midst of those 4 years, I had multiple times like threatened to change majors. One time I was like, oh, I'm going to switch to psychology. And my parents were literally like, we're going to disown you.
Oh my God.
They were dead serious. They would just look me in my eyes and be like, do not do that. We will disown you. And then other times I would like remember I was failing biochemistry because, again, this idea that we could just memorize and everything was an equation just didn't make sense to me. I was like, if I cannot pass this class, there's no way I can get into medical school. And these little things that happen that I reflect backwards and say, oh, wow, that's like a really epic coincidence, quote unquote. But I had a friend who was like a biochemistry genius And she found out that I was not doing well in this class. I was maybe getting a C or something. And she was like, I've got you. And literally spent 3 nights, day and night, like locked up in a room with me to teach
Wow.
me everything that I needed to know for this final. And I got like a 98 on that final. And the professor like called me in and was like, how did you cheat? Like could not believe that I had passed this exam.
Oh my
And
God.
he was literally like, you cheated on this exam. And I was like, I absolutely did not cheat. I studied for 3 freaking days with your super smart student in the class. And he called her in. Her name was Michelle.
Oh,
He
wow.
calls Michelle in and he was like, is it true? Did you help her study? And she's like, yeah, dude.
They called in your friend.
Yeah. Yeah. So Michelle comes in and she was like, of course I helped her study. Why wouldn't I? And he still just didn't want to believe us. But of course, like, had to give me the grade. And I ended up getting like a B plus, which is reasonable enough for getting into some medical school. But that was a moment where I could have dropped out because it was just so hard.
Yeah.
And something came in that helped get me past that hurdle, right?
Yeah.
So I get to the month before the end of pre-med, before college ends, and I was like, I don't know what I'm doing with my life. Becoming a physician's assistant was on the table because I was like, well, at least it's not as long as medical school, so maybe that's a path. But it wasn't like something I was super excited about.
Yeah.
And then I go to like visit my parents at their house, and I just happened to be there on the weekend that they received a pamphlet that was in my name, a pamphlet from a naturopathic medical school. And the cover says body, mind, spirit.
Oh,
And it's medical school. And I didn't even have to open it. I literally was like, this is what I'm doing with my life.
oh my gosh.
And my very conventional, very immigrant parents were like, oh God, no. Like, we wanted you to be a doctor so you can make money, not so you can like do this woo-woo stuff that's
Right.
not accepted in this country. And like the pamphlet talks about Ayurveda and homeopathy, 2 medicines which are from India that are extremely popular in India that my parents actually raised me with,
Oh
right?
my.
Instead of going to the doctor, my dad would be like, here, take these herbs. They're going to be great for you. You'll be fine. And he thought he was like a home doctor, right? He
Yeah.
wanted to be a doctor, never got to be. So he was like living out his dream, basically. And he would give me like random homeopathic remedies. It was just like, it was a house that we never went to the doctor. Like, you got sick, here's some stuff to take. I didn't know what I was taking, but it was some random stuff that tasted like garbage that I would have to take until I got better. And that was
So
our life.
interesting that they wanted you to be a doctor when they never took you to the doctor.
Right, exactly. I was like, how was I going to be a doctor? I have no example of that. Yet
Right.
I have a very clear example of taking nasty garbage herbs that work.
Right.
Right. And I was like, that sounds cool to me. So being familiar with those things and being able to integrate this piece that I felt like was missing, this like mind and spirit aspect into how healing happens and what our body needs in order to heal, made a lot of sense to me. And I was like, that's fine. You guys don't approve. It's okay. You can disown me now. Like, I'm going to go do this.
Yeah.
So they didn't disown me this time because, it's at least you're going to be a doctor.
Okay.
But they
This
did
time, was there
try.
another time?
What was that?
This, you said this time. Was there another time?
The psychology thing would have
Would
definitely
have, would have sent them
led
over
to
to
disownment.
you.
But this one, they were like, you'll have to pay for it yourself. We don't support you with this, but
Okay.
it is what it is. Do what you want. It was kind of the energy. And so I went through naturopathic medical school. the first year in school, they kept trying to like get me to transfer out and go to a real medical school.
Right.
But that when that didn't go for them, they were like, okay, maybe we just need to give this up. And they did. They relaxed. They were like, okay, she's doing what she's doing. It'll be fine.
Yeah.
And so that kind of was the beginning. And after medical school is when I went to the monastery to spend that year in silence. And that
How did
was
that come up? Like, why did you decide to do that? I mean, I did 10 days of
yes,
Vipassana and I thought I
yes.
was going to come out of my skin.
Yeah, yeah. I've done a lot of 10 days. Graduating from high school was my first 10 day. And that was really intense. My parents were like, "Oh my god, she joined a cult." I was like, "It's only 10 days. It'll be fine. I'll be back."
Yeah.
And then I did a few more of those throughout college. While I was in medical school, I came to this like, I really want a spiritual teacher. Like, I
Mhm.
want someone who is going to be a guide for my life
Yeah.
and what I should be doing, and like really connecting to this like spiritual aspect of myself. So I went to India. Actually, that was in naturopathic school. It was the summer after the first year in school. I went to India hoping to meet a spiritual teacher. It was
Okay.
like my eat, pray, love journey. And I was like, well, I've got 4 months, so I'm just going to go eat, pray, love and learn Ayurveda while I'm there. And, you know, hopefully I'll
Awesome.
meet a spiritual teacher. And I didn't. And I came back from that and met my friend slash mentor who introduced me to this monastery. So when I got back, I met this man who was a naturopathic doctor, and he was like guest lecturing at our school. And I was like, oh, he's weird. Like, he's got a really long beard, really long dreadlocks, right? Like, he just looks weird. He like stands out like a sore thumb. And he like comes up to me out of this big crowd of people and was like, come talk to me. And I was like, whoa, that was weird. What's
Wow.
happening?
Yeah.
And he was like, you need to learn homeopathy. I can teach you.
Oh my gosh.
And you need to go to this monastery. And I was like, this is the weirdest conversation I was not planning to have. But apparently, like, he was tapped into something.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
learned later, like, he also meditates like 3 hours a day and is super connected to source.
Yeah.
So he was the introduction into that monastery.
Which was where?
And
Where was that monastery?
in Arkansas.
Okay.
So not too far. It's in the
Yeah.
US. I did a 10-day because I wanted to see, is this different from a typical 10-day that I would do at Vipassana
Yeah.
meditation. And the 10 days at this monastery, I was in silence. So check. That was the same. We meditated, but it wasn't constant meditation, right? Like,
Yeah.
Vipassana is you're meditating all day, all day, all day, like 14
Yeah.
hours a day.
Right.
With this monastery, it was more like we meditated, and I was mostly secluded in this retreat room, right? I wasn't necessarily engaging with anyone else that was living there. So it's just like on my own little mini retreat. And I was like, I want to meet the teacher. And the answer was, okay, sure. AKA, like, this is not going to happen,
Yeah.
right? Like, who are you to come in here, like, demanding to meet the teacher?
Right.
So I was given these books, and they were like, here, read this, here, read this. And I would fly through these books.
Huh.
So in my 10 days there, I probably read like 30 spiritual books,
Wow.
including Autobiography of a Yogi, which is
Yep.
fat, right?
Yes,
Like, that
it
is
is.
a fat
It's a
book.
fat book. Oh my God.
So I was like, wow, I'm flying through these books. What's happening to my brain? It just felt like it was expanded
Yeah.
to absorb and integrate so much
Yeah.
faster.
Yeah.
And that was a really cool experience. And pretty much just that was it. Like I kind of wrote it off and never really met the teacher. And that was in my second year of medical school. So, or actually, no, maybe third year of medical school. So I was still like externally, where is my spiritual teacher? Why can't I figure it out? Like, which path am I supposed to be on? And it took me about 9 months until I was on a cushion meditating, and it felt like I was being hit on the head. And I was
Wow.
like, holy shit, like I'm out here looking for a teacher. I already am like connected. I was led to this thing
Yeah.
that has an alive spiritual teacher in freaking Arkansas. Yet I didn't connect the dots. So I
Mm.
called the monastery that day and I was like, can I speak to the teacher? And they put him on the phone. And I was like, why didn't you just tell me you were my spiritual teacher? And he was like, well, you have to figure that out yourself. I wasn't here for you to tell you that. And I was
Oh
like,
my
oh, okay, I got it. That's how this works.
Oh
Um,
my gosh. So was that the same guy that you
yes.
saw speaking? It was the
No,
same
no,
guy.
no. No, no. So
Okay.
the doctor that introduced me to the monastery is a student of that
Okay.
teacher. So long story short, I pretty much was like, okay, well, I'm going to graduate soon. Can I come to the monastery again? But this time for like a longer stay. And he was like, sure. How long do you want to be here? And I was like, I don't know, maybe 3 months. And
Mm.
he was like, okay, great. No problem. We'll take you. So the plan was I graduate, take my board exams, and then go live in this monastery for 3 months. Within So I didn't realize what all the rules were going to be, but I got there, and sure enough, the biggest rule is don't talk to anybody.
Right.
You're a new student, you don't get to talk to anyone
Yeah.
except the teacher during the appropriate like teaching times. So once a day there would be like a small lecture, and then I'd be able to ask questions, and that was it.
Yeah.
And then besides that, they kind of live off the grid, so you would help out with farming and help out with cooking and meditate, and that's it. Like that's your job.
Hmm.
So you're like living this off the grid life, doing nothing else. And within a month or so, I remember falling asleep, and I could hear people around me talking, but they were always talking a different language. So it wasn't English, and I
Okay.
couldn't understand it. So I was like, well, I don't have to talk anyway. So it doesn't really matter that I don't understand what they're talking about.
Right.
In the back of my mind, I was just like, I wish I could understand what they're saying, so at least I could have some like intellectual stimulation,
Right. Well,
like
the mind is like
something.
dying to grab onto something. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I could like
Yeah.
feel my brain just going like, what can I
Yeah.
do?
Yeah.
And then so I go to sleep one of these nights. It was about maybe 6 weeks into the 3 months, and I go to bed, wake up the next morning, and all of a sudden all of those voices that had been kind of distant and I couldn't process, I suddenly felt like I understood what they were saying.
Oh my gosh.
I kind of started looking around and I was like, is this for real? Like, what is happening?
Wow.
And I insisted that I get a private audience with the teacher. And I was like, what is going on? I feel like I understand everything, but it's a whole new language. Like, I don't know what's happening.
Right.
And he's like, oh, yeah, you downloaded that last night. And I was like, wait, what?
Yeah.
Download? Wait, what? What is downloaded? And he's like, the Matrix. And I was like, what else can I download from this Matrix?
Right.
And he's like, literally anything you want.
Wow.
And that's when I was like, okay, let's change this 3-month timeline to forever, maybe. I was like, sign me up, whatever this is, I will drink it all.
Wow.
So after about 6 weeks, 12 weeks, I was pretty much like, yeah, I'm staying for way longer than 3 months. And I ended up staying for a year before I started getting my own intuition, like being extremely loud about it was time for me to go back into the world and be of service in some way.
Yeah.
And not to like give up my life and live in a monastery for the rest of my life. So it felt like it was time. It was after that year, it was like, okay, it's time to leave and give what you're here to give to the world. And that's
And
when
how old were you at that point? You were young.
yeah, I was 26. 26, yeah.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah, I was pretty young. And interestingly, when I left the monastery, I found out that my mom had just been diagnosed with cancer. So I came back to being hit with like, oh shit, like I
Mm.
can't believe that my mom has cancer. She was given 3 weeks to live.
3 weeks. Oh, wow.
She had a massive tumor on her kidney. So she was going to get surgery. She got the tumor removed. Her kidney was also removed. And they were like, this is a really rare type of cancer. We don't have medications for it. We don't think chemo is going to do anything. We don't think radiation is going to do anything, but we're giving you a very small likely chance that you will survive this.
Wow.
And I basically like used all of my naturopathic medical
Yeah.
tools
Yeah.
to get her started on what I thought would be a course of action based on what I had learned. And she ended up living for 3 years without any
Wow.
symptoms. The doctors confirmed her cancer was in remission,
Wow.
and until like 15 days before she passed away, eventually, it had metastasized to the lungs, and at that point, they couldn't do anything about it.
Right.
So, and even that, like during those 3 years, I had trained so much in cancer therapies
Yeah.
that I knew that there was a medication that could help with the metastasized lung cancer, but it was off-label use for the type of cancer that she was originally diagnosed
Oh,
with.
geez. Okay.
And I like fought with the doctors to be like, just give her the off-label use, like just
Right.
use it even though it's not for renal
Right.
cell carcinoma. And they were like, no, we can't, we just can't give her this medication. Unfortunately, they were like, well, we're going to give her the renal cell treatment, not the lung cancer treatment. And I was
Oh
like,
my gosh.
oh my God. And 15 days after she started those meds, she was like out of this world.
Wow.
But that journey was really, for me, like following my intuition, working, like training in naturopathic medicine. I feel like it gave me a foundation, and it gave me at least like a few more years with my mom
Yeah.
that I don't think would have happened otherwise. It was still a positive amongst all of the negative, but it taught me a lot. And I came out of that with, I was very grateful that
Mm.
I had the extra time that I had, and grateful that I was able to like help her in some way to not live in pain, which was her biggest thing, was like, I don't want to live a shitty life. If I'm here, I want to be healthy. I want to enjoy it. and
Yeah.
do what I can. And she did. And she, like, those 3 years were probably some of her best years, because it was a wake up call for my father. And he was like, oh, I have to work less, and let's go travel the world, and let's go here and there, and like kind of do the things that were on her list to try and
Yeah.
do before she passed. So it was a bittersweet time.
So did it motivate you to want to work in cancer treatment at all anymore?
you
Because I
would
mean, you
you
wound
would
up
think so,
yeah.
right?
But no.
So the logical side of my brain said I have specialized in cancer, essentially because I've been studying it for 3 years to help my mom. I went to so many trainings and so many specializations around cancer training that I thought that that was the path.
Yeah.
Yet every time I tried to get into the cancer like integrative cancer world, the doors just kept closing on me. And I was like, this is
Mm.
so weird. It does not make sense. And and when I sat in meditation about it or tried to get some intuition around it, the intuition would lead me into fertility. And I was
Huh.
like, I don't understand. Please help me understand how this makes sense. And it was essentially that cancer is the result of so many things that are starting preconception. So
Mhm.
it wasn't my job to try and treat cancer. It
Yeah.
was, how do we create a better world and how do we prevent it altogether? And the
Wow.
result of that was, well, we start before we get here and we start with the parents that
Yeah.
are going to create the template for this child that may eventually have a disease. So it became
Wow.
a very like long-term perspective. And when I pieced all of those things together, it made a lot more sense. But at the time, I was like, I don't understand. Why won't
Right, right. We
anyone
never
listen to
understand.
me?
Right. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So what were those things when you began to see, like, what, when you say like it's about before the soul even comes in?
Yeah.
What are you
Yeah.
referring to?
Well, it's the epigenetics. So a lot of the template for our health and well-being is created through the epigenetics that we inherit and express. So if we could optimize the epigenetics before conception, then we've set that child up for a much healthier life. So that was part of it. The other part was to understand and realize that fertility is a game-changing or like life awakening moment for a lot of couples.
Mm.
People that are struggling with fertility are the most likely to make lifestyle changes that will
Help
support their
changes.
fertility.
Yeah, because it's that motivating.
Yeah,
They're
yeah,
willing to do it for that.
super
Yeah,
motivated.
yeah, yeah.
And in the process of this, what I've realized is we're not just preventing cancer. We are, the number of times that I have seen men specifically that were not diagnosed with diabetes, prediabetes,
Mm.
methylation issues, sperm being an indicator of health and vitality in their bodies. Fertility is like such a sign of what else is happening in the body. Are you in a vital, optimal state? And
Yeah,
if you're not, then it's showing up as fertility issues because the body sees fertility as a bonus, not as a requirement, right?
right.
So fertility is not necessary for your survival in any way.
Yeah,
So when you are in a state of unwell or just below optimal, where everything is still normal, quote unquote,
right.
your labs are still normal, quote unquote, but you are not in your best, healthiest, most vital state. Fertility is off because your body is like, well, I'm trying to survive. I don't need to reproduce. It's not going to make a difference to me one way or another if I have a child or not.
Right.
So it became, fertility is a really cool space because it helps me to help these parents to be, to prevent all kinds of issues in their own bodies. We are able to detect things very, very early on that are preventable things, right? Like
Yeah.
diabetes, blood pressure, methylation issues, adrenal issues, thyroid issues. They're all like preventable things if we know them in advance, well
Mm.
before you need medication. So fertility becomes the space where we can prevent a lot. We can, and we will often screen for markers that could be cancer causing in the future. I had a woman who had two of these markers that were off the charts for her in the way that her body processes estrogen. And
Mm.
when those markers are off the chart, you're more likely to have an estrogen dependent cancer than not. And I was like, listen, you don't have cancer at all. But the way that your body deals with estrogen could predispose you to cancer. And she kind of
Mm.
freaked out and she was like, oh my God, my whole family has breast cancer.
Right.
And like, she was like, what do I do? What do I do? Just tell me what to do.
Yeah.
And we were able to shift her pathways so that she's no longer processing the estrogen in the same way. And now she's less risk of cancer. That's not to say guaranteed that she's not going to get cancer. It's more like her body has shifted how it processes, and
Right.
hopefully that will protect her rather than predispose her.
And how do you shift that? Is that with herbs or
Yep.
you're doing it with herbs?
Herbs and supplements. Yeah. A lot of what I do is herbs and supplements, diet and lifestyle. And the other piece around this is children are born with 340 some toxins floating around in their bloodstream.
Mm.
That was the one that was like ding, 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 because so much of cancer is related to toxins.
Yeah.
And what I didn't know when I started this work, or when I was getting these intuitive hits, was we actually, like, the same things that are considered carcinogens that we have studied as carcinogens that we're being exposed to, that are making our genes wig out and making it more likely that we get cancer in the future, are the same exact genes or same exact toxins
That are coming
that
out.
are also reproductive issues.
Wow.
So the data is very, very clear. Like, the same stuff that is carcinogenic is also a reproductive toxin. So if we eliminate these toxins, if we detox, quote unquote, if we
Yeah.
get them out of the environment, out of the person's home, out of the person's body, then we've created an environment where they are less likely to get cancer because they're no longer being exposed to the same things that they were
Yeah.
being exposed to before they worked with us. So now we've
So
set up this family to just have a better state of health altogether.
all throughout. Yeah. So what are the things that, you would recommend our audience, like if someone's listening now and they're like, yeah, I want to clean that up,
Mhm.
what are the basic things that you start with for people?
Yeah, absolutely. So the first one is plastic. And
Okay.
plastic is BPA, BPS, BPF. There's a bunch of like bisphenol compounds that are present in plastic,
Which is
and
everywhere. I mean,
which
plastic's
is
everywhere.
everywhere.
Yeah.
Everything from the clothes we wear
Yeah.
to the the period products that we use,
Yeah.
to containers, in our kitchen to cooking utensils. It's literally everywhere.
Literally
It's
everywhere.
the coffee cup lining in your Starbucks coffee, right?
It's the
So,
Ziploc bags you put stuff in.
yes, yeah, yeah. So, we really need to think about how to strategically detox plastic out of our life. And I think that there are a few things that are very low hanging fruit that could be easy enough to do. The first is the plastic containers that we have in our kitchen. Just throw them away. Get
Glass.
a set of glass
Yep.
containers. That's it. You don't have to think about that again. You do have to consider if you get the meal kit delivery things, or if you get a lot of takeout or things like that, those are going to come with in plastic.
Or
So
foil, which is equally as bad, right? We don't even go to get takeout. It's like, no, we got to go there because we don't want to get, especially when
yes,
the food's hot, right?
yes, absolutely. It's worse when it's hot. Once it cools down, it's a little better. But if you do go out to eat a lot, it's a little weird, but you could bring your own containers
Bring it
to,
home in.
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, like bring your own take home containers. I'm sure the restaurant is like, yeah, that's weird, but they're also saving money.
Right.
So they're not going to tell you not to.
Right.
So that's an option. If you are getting the meal kit delivery services, I have thought about this long and hard because there's a convenience factor to it.
Right.
But often the things that are convenient in this world have a cost,
Yeah.
right? And the cost is not just financial, it's often to your health.
Yeah.
So those are easy things to do. The other places where plastic comes in a lot is receipts. So if you go to the grocery store, you get a receipt. The ink on that receipt is often
Oh,
BPA, and because it touches our skin, we absorb it. It's going into our bodies.
interesting.
So if you just decline the receipt,
Yeah.
you're taking a step in the right direction. And then, of course, like plastic water bottles. Like,
Right.
I live in Texas for only the last few years, and I am surprised by how many homes in Texas don't use don't have a filter in their house.
Mm-hmm.
And Texas water, at least in Houston, it's known to be really bad. So nobody wants to drink the water. And instead of putting a water filter in their home, they use bottled water. So
Mm.
they're going through cases and cases and cases of bottled water every month
Wow.
instead of just putting a filter on their home. So getting a whole house filter, if that's what you need to prevent, crappy water going into your body,
Yeah.
and ideally getting rid of plastic water bottles. So that's a big one.
Yep.
Definitely, if you go to Starbucks, bring your own coffee mug. They're happy to fill your coffee in your own mug,
Mug. Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So those are easy things that we can switch out and
I mean,
get
some
a
of
lot
the
of
top
bang
of
for
those
buck.
coffee mugs, though, are plastic. Even the top of the coffee mugs that we have at home, right?
Yeah.
It's just a
Yeah.
different kind of plastic, right?
Yes. Yes, but you can get the one that I use is bamboo.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So I have a coffee mug, or like it's a tea mug. I don't actually like coffee, but my tea mug has a bamboo lid. So it's getting less
Interesting.
exposure to plastic. So yeah,
What about like seed oils and things like that?
seed oils. Seed
Yeah.
oils are very much in the news right now. They're the latest fad to get rid of. Um, I think that there are seed oils that are inflammatory, but I don't think the research is actually as clear as people are trying to make it sound.
Interesting.
So, yes, you want to lower inflammation in your body, but it's probably not the thing that I would start with. It's like, absolutely. If you're living a super clean life and you're like, I still have inflammation, definitely let's get rid of the seed oils.
Okay.
But if we start from like the top, where most people need to start is like, get rid of the basic shit that's in our environment. The second toxin that I pick on a lot is phthalates. And phthalates are equal reproductive toxin as well as carcinogenic. And uh, they're they are very big endocrine disruptors.
Mm.
And the place that they actually show up in a lot more than we know, and usually in the form of fragrance. So anything that says fragrance is a phthalate.
So
Uh,
perfume and cologne and
all of it. Yes, all of it.
detergent
Yes.
and soap.
Your body care products, your hair care products,
Oh
literally
my
everything.
gosh. So what do
Uh,
you wash with? What do you use for a scent?
Essential oils are really great for scents.
Okay.
And you can get, one of my favorite brands is Gaia Labs, GYA Labs. You can find it on Amazon. It's super clean essential oils that smell amazing. I have got a, a plastic-free dispenser for essential oils. So you walk into my house, people always come in and like, oh my God, it smells so amazing in here. It's because we're often running that essential oil diffuser that is pure essential oil, is not being exposed to plastic, which a lot of those essential oil diffusers are.
Oh, okay.
Um, and it's just putting this into the air. It doesn't linger for that long. So it just runs on its own, and
Yeah.
has like
Yeah.
a gentle, soft
And do
background.
you use it as like perfume too and stuff?
Yes,
Essential
I
oils?
do
Yeah.
use essential oils as perfumes. Um,
And soap in the shower. What do you do for that?
Soap is, I actually use Dr. Bronner's detergent, or like soap detergent thing, and like I buy it in a jug and just refill my glass dispenser with it. So
Wow.
um yeah, that's what I use for soap.
That's
If
a
you ask
big thing
my
that people
husband.
can cut out. Like that most people probably have no idea. I
Yes.
didn't.
Yeah, the
And
fragrances are
yeah.
tough. It's in like, everyone wants to smell good.
Yeah.
So it is in so many products that if you look through your labels, you'll be like, oh my God, that has fragrance? Like, I just thought
Yeah.
it was normal.
And anything that says fragrance is going to mean it's phthalates. Is that what you called it?
Yep. Yep.
Yeah.
Even if it says natural fragrances, still
It's
phthalates.
phthalates.
This is how a lot of companies sneak in toxins. So you can have products that claim organic and clean on the
Yeah.
front, but if you turn it over, and it's almost always the last ingredient, natural fragrances.
Yes.
Uh, so just flip to the end of your ingredient list. All you have to look for is the word fragrance, and you can be like, "Yep, putting that right
But
back on the shelf."
that's how my brain like justifies things. If it's the last ingredient, it means it's the least. I'm like, oh, that's just a little bit. It's okay. You're
Yeah,
saying no, it is not. Is not okay.
yeah, yeah. That, unfortunately, that one is a big one that I would avoid. And
Wow.
then we have, I feel like glyphosate is probably my third biggest one. And that is because of what it does inside of our bodies. So glyphosate is basically Roundup. It's a
Yeah.
pesticide that's sprayed on
Right.
a lot of plants. So you're going to get it in the form of non-organic food. And what it does inside our gut is it kills all the good microbiome. So a lot more people are getting allergies, food sensitivities. They don't feel well, their stomach is not well. It's often coming from eating food that is killing their microbes, and now they're no longer able to have the same protective barriers in their gut that they would normally have.
Right.
So that one's a big one.
Which is very
For
hard
women,
to get all organic food. I mean,
absolutely.
like we eat very much organic, but like we can't find a chicken source. It's like really hard, like
Yes.
just a lot of, yeah.
Yeah, it's tough. It's not easy to eat all organic. And then you just like do the best you can with the things that you can, right?
Right,
And if you live in a place, I feel like Texas is a place that doesn't have a lot of organic food easily
right,
accessible.
right,
So then we're like, great, we're eating the same 12 vegetables that are
right,
available organic, and that's all we
right.
have access to
And that's
unless we
it.
go to like a specialty store.
Right,
So you can sign up for like CSA boxes, or they have like a lot of meat farms will have meat boxes. So they will
right.
deliver organic meat to your home directly instead of you needing to go to a store to buy it. So
Yeah,
those are some workarounds that people could use. And then the thing for women though, where glyphosate becomes really relevant in the fertility world, is our period products.
yeah.
And cotton is the biggest glyphosate sprayed plant
Oh God,
in the entire world.
yeah.
So all cotton products are glyphosate laden.
But there is organic product.
Even there are like Always, I think, has an organic pad now, but when you flip it over, it's like they have some disclaimer about the organic that basically
Yeah,
says we
it's
don't
not organic.
actually, yeah, it was
It's
not
like
actually
it's
organic.
not actually organic. We said that, but just kidding.
Yeah, exactly. So you want to be careful with them and realize that so many of our period products are either non-organic cotton, which kills the microbiome of our vaginal area, or it is plastic, which
Right.
is, I don't know which one
Well,
is
both.
worse. So, like, really thinking about using organic period panties or menstrual cups, or essentially just leave it all and go to something that is safer, and that's reusable, because even if you buy non-organic period panties, if you cycle them through the wash 3 times, you have taken out most of the glyphosate that was on there,
Okay.
versus the
Yeah.
non-organic pads. They're disposable, so you're not getting rid, there's no way you're getting
Right.
rid of it.
Right.
So yeah, so thinking about things like that, uh, I
Yeah.
feel like those three are probably my top detox tips in
Yeah.
terms of things that just are destroying our health in so many ways.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah. Thank you for that. So let's talk about, because I know that you're really putting together you speak a lot. You know, you and I met in a speaking program together because we both
Yeah.
speak, and but mostly you speak about infertility and all of these kinds of things, and you're venturing because you obviously have so much more experience with this intuitive, and I know we've talked about, silence being, what did we come up with? What was it?
Lead with
Lead
silence.
with silence. I love
Yes.
that. Yes, I absolutely love that. And doing more leadership stuff. And so talk about what you're creating there. What's the vision for all of that?
It's still coming. So part of this, like, I feel like you probably know this also, is like intuition. And when you're following your intuition, it still is like opening up things that aren't going to be like all at once, this is what you're meant to do kind of thing.
Right.
But what I have known for a very long time, because when I started the fertility work, the intuition wasn't actually like work with couples on their fertility. It was help couples have babies and help businesses be fertile.
Mm,
And so that like second piece I have
yeah.
ignored for 15 years.
Okay.
So that's really where I'm headed, is like, okay, I feel like I felt like I needed to focus on something. I was like, I can't imagine doing business when I'm new in business. Like, I can't
Yeah.
help anybody else. So maybe if you in the future, intuition, like we'll come back to this.
Right, right, right.
And lately it's been coming back to its time to really step into what does it mean for people to create a fertile business and a fertile life.
Yeah.
And a lot of that, I think, is around leadership through silence. It's slowing down, it's listening to what's true for me and my body. Like, what's my body telling me in this? What are my hormones saying? Can I listen
Yeah.
more than I speak? And it's a work in progress. I don't feel like I'm amazing at this, but
Oh, but I love where it's going, right? I love
yeah,
it's so amazing. I love where it's going.
yeah, yeah.
So, yeah, so helping business be fertile and listening more than you're speaking.
Hmm.
And listening to what your body's saying, right? I mean, that is so, I'm laughing to myself because I have this habit of saying, right, right. And someone literally commented on my YouTube, every time she says right, it's like so desperate for approval. And every time I hear myself say right, I'm like, think of that comment. Anyway, sorry. I
Yeah.
think it's kind of the way that I think. I think when I'm thinking something, I tack that word on to give myself a little more time to think about what I want to ask.
Mm.
But
Hmm.
so, yeah, so say more about that. So, what does it look like to be fertile and to listen more? And this issue about listening to your body, I think,
Hmm.
is incredibly important. And one of the things I wanted to ask you is like, well, let me ask this. When you say listening to your body, there's a couple different ways that I hear that. One way I hear it is listening to literally like what's happening in your body, like what are the symptoms that you're having, because
Hmm.
that is telling you something,
Hmm.
which is so difficult for us to believe because we've been so conditioned to believe, I just need to take something, or maybe even I need to work on my diet, but that there's some type of emotional component under it,
Hmm.
even though I firmly believe that. And I was, even this morning, I was thinking to myself, I was going back, my brain was going back to thinking more about my diet, which it's not that I don't need to think about that, but like I'm very clear that my
Hmm.
body is telling me something from an emotional past wounding,
Hmm.
like that
Hmm.
needs to be dealt with and seen.
Yeah.
So it's like listening to your body from like literally what are the symptoms, but then it's also like listening to the emotions or what's happening
Yes.
and getting that hit of intuition. So
Yes.
my mind opens up. What do
Yeah.
you mean when you say that?
All of it. Like, I think on some level we are taught not to listen.
Mm-hmm.
We're taught to hit the ignore button, and we do it. I do it. Let's be real.
Yeah.
Like, if I have a headache and
Mm-hmm.
I have a long day and I'm like, oh my God, I have like 6 clients today. This is not the day for a headache. What do? I go into the cabinet and grab a couple of ibuprofens and
Right.
move on with my life.
Which probably have plastics in them, don't they?
I don't know if they have plastics, but they definitely are not
Not good for you.
non-toxic.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. Yeah. Right.
It,
Yeah.
but
Exactly.
it is the bigger piece of that. Like, yes, it's toxic. So I've just introduced these toxins into my body.
Right.
But the bigger piece is that I hit the ignore button on the message that my body was telling me.
Yes.
And maybe that message was, hey, you didn't drink enough water. Hence you're dehydrated, hence the headache. Another one is I was getting these chronic headaches that would like go away. They would be fine. I would be fine in the morning, and then by like mid-afternoon I would have a headache, and I could not figure it out. Except the very obvious thing, which was I was skipping lunch every single day that I had that headache.
Right.
So I would literally be like, but I'm not hungry. Like, I'm listening to my body. I'm not hungry.
Yeah.
And I slapped a CGM, a continuous glucose monitor, on myself, and literally my blood glucose is going off the charts at the same time that I'm having the headache. And I was like, of course. Okay.
Jeez.
I
Yeah.
need to eat even if I'm not hungry, because it's doing other things that I am not expecting to happen. So,
Interesting. Yeah.
like, yeah. So, really, like, listening from that side is important, but also listening when it's emotional is super important. And one of the wake up calls that I had in my own life was I was 31, married to this guy who kept talking about having babies. And literally, like, the time that we were together from the point of our engagement to until we got divorced, like, were the worst periods I have had in my entire life.
Wow.
My cycles were irregular. I was
Wow.
doubled over in pain. uh it was just not, like, I knew I was not well,
Yeah.
yet I pushed through all of it. And it all came to a head when he was like, so when are we ready to have babies? And I literally, like, heard my uterus scream, no. And that's when I was like, holy shit, what is happening? And that was a really clear message for
Yeah.
me to wake up and decide, like, am I going to stay with this man who is very much not aligned? If I looked at what had happened since we got engaged, like, my body was telling me the entire time, right? It wasn't
Wow.
like
Wow.
all of a sudden. It was
Yeah.
literally like when we got engaged, my cycles had been out of whack, my intuition had been out of whack. Even leading up to our wedding, I remember talking to friends and being like, is this nerves or am I, like, really
Yeah.
making a bad decision?
Yeah.
And most of the people around me, like, we were perfectly aligned on paper. He was literally what I had called in. So I was
Mm-hmm. Of
very attached to the idea of what was
course.
perfect
Yep.
rather than what was actually true.
Yep.
And my body knew on a very fundamental level, like, this was a bad idea.
Mm-hmm.
And even the morning of my wedding, my father is about to walk me down the aisle, and he was like, I don't care that there are 200 people here. If you want to call this off, you can still call this off.
He knew.
He knew,
Wow.
like, this was not what I should be doing.
Wow.
So, like, on all the levels,
Yeah.
and, like, we had issues going into the marriage, and just thought it was like relationship stuff. We'd been together for a very long time, and he was like, let's go to a therapist. So we go to the therapist, and 2 weeks in, she's like, I want you guys to pause and just think for a second about, like, how long you guys are meant to be together. Like, how long are you supposed to stay married?
Wow.
And for him, he was instantly like, for a lifetime, of course.
Yeah.
And what I heard in my intuition was 18 months.
Oh.
What I said out loud was 18 years, which he's
Oh
so
my.
wigged out about. I was like, definitely not months. That was a typo, right?
Right.
And I, like, corrected it out loud. But literally, like, 18 months to the day, I woke up and I was like, it's time for us to split up. I
Oh
want a
wow.
divorce. We're
Wow.
done. And he was like, what are you talking about? And
Oh
I
my
was like, we're
gosh.
done. This is over. And I have nothing else left. And so, all of that to say, like, the intuition, at least in my life, has not stopped, right? It will be
Yeah.
like louder and louder and louder and louder till I listen, and till
Yeah.
I am like, okay, I'm finally ready to, like, let go of what I think for what I know.
For what you know. Yeah, exactly. Right? I always talk about that, from
Yeah.
overthinking to inner knowing, but we're
Yes.
so addicted to what we think.
Yes. Yeah.
So
And
hard.
yep, it is. It's really challenging because, like, logically, my logical brain was like, but look at this. Like, we're aligned on all of these
Yeah,
things.
yeah,
But the truth was, we were really not aligned. And, like, thank God I didn't have a child with him.
yeah.
Thank God for my uterus. That was like, God, no.
Right.
Uh, because that, like, became the wake up call that I needed to say, okay, if I am with the wrong person, do I want to have a child with the wrong person? Or do I prefer not to have children for the sake of
Yeah,
preserving my truth?
yeah,
And I came to, I'm going to be okay without a child. Like, I would love to have a child, but it's not like, it is not my calling in this world
hmm,
to absolutely, like, I didn't feel so attached to this idea of being a mother that I couldn't let go of it.
yeah.
And it was, he was part of the stimulus into me doing fertility work, because I started researching everything that I could do for my fertility. And, like, literally what I had been taught in medical school about our fertility drops off of a cliff, we're not going to be fertile
Right,
forever, like all of these things
right.
that I found were myths in so many ways. As I
Mm,
was doing this research and as I was on this, I literally was like locked in a research room for 9 months trying to figure out fertility.
wow.
Because I was like, I know a lot about natural medicine, but everything that I see is, I'm screwed if I don't have a child with this man.
Right.
I will
You're not
never
gonna
have
have
a
enough
child.
time otherwise.
Yes,
Yeah,
exactly.
right.
Yeah. I couldn't, like, logically see past it. So I needed to rely on research to really get to the point of, I'll be okay if I don't have a child. And I really believe that I can prolong my fertility. And that's when, like, I started talking about that and people were like, oh my God, you can help me get pregnant. And I was like,
Right.
no, this is just research.
Yeah.
Like, I'm gonna actually help you. And sure enough, like, that has been the path that kind of catapulted me into the fertility world, which it was like, as much as intuition was trying to guide me there, I
Yeah.
didn't see it
You
all
didn't see it.
till this happened. And I
It
was
makes me
like,
wonder though,
uh-oh.
like, because I had infertility problems in my first marriage, and it does make you wonder, like, how much of infertility problems are that people are not in the correct marriage?
Yeah, it's hard to tell, but there are couples that intuitively I get a hit about not supporting them, which
Yeah.
sounds like a very rude thing to say. But if intuition says no to
Yeah.
a couple for whatever reason, like, I don't even ask anymore. I'm like, intuitively, I'm not meant to be your person.
Wow.
Um, and I just decline.
And you don't tell them
And
that it feels like this is not the marriage. You just tell them it feels like it's not, I'm not the one for you.
yes, yeah, because it's often, what I've realized with relationships is, we are not always willing to hear other people's
No,
take
1,000%.
on it, right?
Oh,
Like,
yeah.
who am I? Like, I just met you for 30 minutes. I don't
Right.
know shit about your relationship.
Yeah.
So I'm not the judge, but
Right.
my intuition is clear that I'm not the one for you.
And
Um,
how does your intuition speak to you?
I, yeah, that's a good question. I think that sometimes I get a very clear hit of just like, something's off.
Hmm.
In At other times, I've noticed that there's actually a couple that I talked to in April of this year, at the end of April, and I, like, keep reviewing their case, but there is no part of me that wants to take action.
Mm.
And I'm like, I think this is pretty good intuition that this is not
Yeah.
meant to be, because
Yeah.
the people that I like instantly am like, oh my God, I want to help you. Like, I'll be whipping out the email. I'm like on the phone, like, how come you don't want to work with me? Like, it's a
Right.
different energy, right?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
I know who my people are and I know whose person I am.
Yeah.
And like, there's an instant match that if that isn't happening, it's not the right fit. And like, why force it? And
Right.
there are times that I have overlooked my intuition and like paid for it in a lot
Oh,
of
I mean, I
ways,
think
you
as business
know?
owners, we've all done that, right? Like, I
Mm-hmm.
mean, I talk to a lot of business owners, and it's like, yeah, intuitively, I knew I shouldn't have taken that client, or I knew I shouldn't have worked at that business, or, it
Yeah.
blows up.
Yeah, totally. Totally. So I get those a lot. And then there are this used to happen quite a bit, and I haven't had it happen recently, but I often would see spirit babies around a couple. So when
Ah,
I relax my focus
yeah.
enough, I would see the spirit of a child that was like hanging out in between this couple.
Wow.
And those were people that I was like, yes, absolutely. But if
Yeah.
I didn't catch a spirit baby, then I was like, I don't know if this is going to happen for you.
Right.
And I haven't, I guess I this is a good reminder. Like, I haven't been looking for it as much, so
Yeah.
I'm not seeing it as often, and or like not aware of it as often.
So that brings
So,
up another question. Like, I mean, when you think about in the space of your business, where do you put ancestral trauma? Because we carry, right, we carry
mhm.
the trauma of our ancestors, and that comes out through our body as well.
Yeah, yeah, it does. And ancestral trauma is stuff that we work on. So, I had a couple, I actually, no, the person I'm thinking of, solo mom by choice, she had fibroids this big.
Mm.
And she is African American descent. Had a grandmother who was a slave, like a direct
Wow.
grandmother.
Wow.
Um, had all kinds of trauma through her that she was aware of throughout her lineage,
Yeah.
all on the maternal line. And we needed to heal all of those layers in order
Yeah.
to get her fibroids to shrink down. And they did. They went from this basketball to like a little patty that
Wow.
the surgeon could now go and take out without scar tissue that was going to
And how did you
make
do
her
that?
infertile.
How do you work with ancestral trauma?
So, of course, we were doing the physical things like diet and lifestyle and supplements, but the ancestral stuff is through a system called Body Talk, Body Intuitive,
Hmm.
that I've studied for like 7 years. And it is a technique that relies on Chinese medicine, Ayurveda, chakras, chiropractic, energetics. It's got like all of it just put into it.
Yeah.
And the ancestral piece is around healing their wounds. So basically, like, what might come up in a session is, oh, your grandmother had this thing going on that created a epigenetic shift in your line.
Right.
So we go and clear it as if we were clearing it for her in real
Right.
time. So basically just heals the past stuff. And it is relatively quick, honestly. Like, um, it can go away pretty snappily because it's already in the past, right? You're healing a
Right.
timeline that is no longer, or well, Yeah, depending on your spiritual training, it can
Right, right.
coexist,
But
but
right, exactly. And you realize it's not yours. I think
yeah.
when people realize they're carrying something that isn't theirs,
Hmm.
it can release
Yeah,
quicker as well.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Interesting.
So she was able to release a lot of it quickly, and we shrank that fibroid down. She went in for the surgery, got it removed, the last piece of it removed. It has not grown back. From what I understand, this was 7 years ago, which is really uncommon for fibroids.
Oh,
Fibroids generally come right back. So, really, it's, like the body manifestations of emotional, spiritual stuff is
yeah.
very real.
Yeah.
And it goes like full circle back to where we started, like body, mind, spirit. We're not disconnected. It's all in us, and they're all interacting within us at all times.
Right.
So we do need to heal the shit that is going on in our
Right.
bodies as much as the stuff that's happening up here and in our spirits.
So are you able to, do you see, like, do you know, oh, this is ancestral? Or is it more, you're like, okay, she's got the story of a grandmother, maybe
Mm,
work on this a little bit? Or do you get an intuitive hit that's like, something ancestral's going on here?
yeah, no, it'll come up in the session. So it'll come up in the mind body session,
Okay.
that there is some ancestral thing that we need to deal with.
Mm,
Uh, and then we, like, the ancestral part of the session is like a specific pathway that we're following to heal it.
to heal
And
it.
then you may, you think you cleared it, and then you're like, oh, there's this other aspect that we didn't clear. Let's clear
Right.
that too.
Yep.
Oh, there's another thing. So it'll just keep coming up in sessions till all of it is cleared. But that system is like incredible, for being able to access our intuition in a
Yeah.
structured way
Yeah.
that helps support healing. So what's cool about it for me is that I am intuitive. We didn't talk about this. I went to a psychic training school for 7 years
Oh,
in
wow.
in the Bay Area when I was
Okay.
being a hippie.
Uh-huh.
Um, and and between those, like, that school really helped me develop and trust my intuition.
Yeah.
uh I feel like we all have it, right? It's not like I don't have a special gift. I think that we are all intuitive. We just have been programmed to shut it off.
Yeah.
So when I started going to the psychic school, I woke up a lot of that and would get, like, start seeing things. I'm a visual intuitive, so I see stuff. And that was great. But I couldn't help people with it because there wasn't like enough clarity, nor did I have tools to like heal it for other people. I have
Right.
tools from the psychic school for myself, but not for other people. So body intuitive really helped me to get a structure that was like, oh, if I just follow this map, then in a
Right.
session I could clear stuff for people that I was trying to support in their healing process.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I love it. I was interviewing Helena Wabea, who's the director of Noetic Sciences
Mm.
for IONS.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
we were talking about that. She's emphatic, about the research showing that, like, we're all intuitive. We have different things that we're able to do. So like you said,
Mm-hmm.
you visually, right? I might not be able to be visually, but I get chills or something else
Mm-hmm.
happens. And we're so busy kind of compare. I know I did, like, forever. It's like, oh, you can see spirit babies. I can't see spirit babies. Like, it's that person. I don't know. Like, we're so busy, like, doing that we're checked out on what it is that the way that our intuition speaks to
Mm-hmm.
us
Mm-hmm.
and the
Yep.
powers that we have,
Yep.
and why we're here. Thank you for bringing that up. It's really a great reminder.
Yeah.
So yeah, as we come up on our time, this time went so quickly. If there was one thing that you could share with the audience, like what is it that you really want people to know more than anything? If you could share one thing.
I think it's take the time to listen to your spirit, your truth, to guide you in whatever it is that you are on the path seeking.
Mm,
If that's a baby, if that's a business, if that's a like being a better CEO, whatever, it doesn't matter what it is. It's allow yourself, like you have the truth within you. And I think that we give that power away so often,
yeah.
that our body is constantly informing us, right? So many times I've seen women that we work with that are struggling with fertility, and when it comes down to it, it's their job that is completely out of alignment.
Mm,
And the baby, the message that they get, because we're like, go listen to your own spirit, baby. Like, we're not doing this work
right.
for you.
Right.
And they will come back and they're like, I think I need to quit my job. And I'm like, okay, and how does that feel? And
Right.
they're like, it's scary, but exciting. I'm like, great, follow it.
Yeah.
Do what
Yeah.
you got to do to make it happen. And it is like, it's really that the people that you bring on as your team to support you in whatever goal it is that you're trying to get to, let them teach, not take over, right? You
Mm, yeah.
still are in charge of your own guidance, and you're not giving it up when you hire someone to support you.
Yeah. You don't
You are,
defer. Yeah.
they're supporting you to learn how to listen better.
Oh, I love that. Yes, they're supporting you to learn how. I love that. I had a client tell me once, he was like, you need to rename your tag, needs to be, I help people remember what they forgot.
Yes.
Right? That's
Yeah.
fantastic.
Yeah. Yeah.
How long do you spend in meditation a day?
Usually like 30 minutes.
That's
Not
part of
long.
your practice. It's part of
Yeah.
your regular. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. It's daily, but like 30 minutes is average. If I'm having a great day, it's an hour. If it's a tough day, it's like 20 minutes, but it is a daily part of my practice. And
Yeah.
I feel like there there was a period of time that I stopped altogether, and that was a really interesting, like,
It always is.
disconnect.
It always
Complete
is.
disconnect.
Yeah. Every time I stop, it's like, all righty, that was
Yeah.
not a good idea. I don't know when it happened. I don't know why it happened, but it's time to get back to
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And do you do silence? Do you sit in silence or do you?
I use Dr. Joe
Oh,
Dispenza's
you do.
meditation. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, you do. Okay. I knew you used some of it because I told you I used to be one of his trainers.
Yes.
I knew
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
used some of it, but I didn't know it was like your regular.
My daily thing.
What's your
Yeah. He's in
favorite?
my
What's
ear
your
a lot.
favorite one that you've used?
Um, gosh, I will say, like, I don't use it all the time, but changing boxes is
Yeah.
one of my favorite. Like, if you ever doubt that your meditation is powerful,
Yeah.
for me, changing boxes is like instant proof. Like, I I have a thing. I do the meditation. I no longer
Have
have
the
that
thing.
issue. It's
Yeah.
like gone. And I like, it's fascinating to me. It's I'm new. I'm new to Dr. Joe's
Okay, so do you have
approach
the
and
new
work.
changing boxes? Because there's been iterations
Yes.
of it.
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
yeah,
I
yeah. I
must
have the
listen to
20
that one
minute.
'cause I don't normally do his meditations that much anymore, but my son was telling me there's a brand new changing boxes. And I just
Mhm.
listened to them like, oh my God, the music is incredible. It's really different than
Yes.
like way, way back when the old ones.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah,
It's
I
like
have
10
the
minutes. It's not that long.
20 minutes. 20
Yeah.
minutes to get yourself out of whatever issue you have is like, yeah, give me that all day long. And
Yeah.
I started with it randomly because I was like, oh, we're not having that many clients and what's going on, and literally like did that meditation that day. 3 people signed up that I had talked to months ago, and I
Wow.
was like, wait, what?
Yeah.
Like, this is all I need to do? Great.
Yeah.
Like, I could do this all day long. And um now I'll use it for like relationship stuff that's happening, or oh, my kid is like annoying the crap out of me. Let's do that
Right.
meditation, right? Like, it's an instant reset and shift into perspective. So I love it. That's probably my favorite, even though it's a little scary, like how easy it would be to just rely on it all
I
the
rely on it all the
time.
time. Well, for you, I mean, I think you've had such a history of surrendering and really seeing and believing, that, and I talk about that a lot on this podcast, like, because, a lot of us, it's hard to believe, with the
Mm-hmm.
conditioning and everything. And so you're early, it's probably really easy for you to surrender to that box meditation because it's like, yeah, no, I know this is real. I know I can do this. I know this is possible. Right.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, it is. It's very easy to get into it.
Well, thank you so much for being here. I so appreciate your time. This was tons of fun. And we will leave all your contact information in the show notes for anybody that wants to be in touch.
Amazing. Thank you so much for having me, Abby. It was awesome.